Hey guys, welcome back to Ranger Survival and Fieldcraft. I'm Andrew, and what I have for you today is another tabletop discussion on a winter or cold weather everyday carry kit. Now, my last video I did was about 20 small things that we can incorporate into our survival kit, things I picked up through training or field time over the last 20 years of being an infantryman, or just things that decided to incorporate and do trial and error just to see what would work. And I had a lot of good comments from you guys on that video. One of the comments I had was about everyday carry, and so I thought about it. That's a good idea. A lot of everyday carry videos are out there, but I thought, why not focus on cold weather or things that we can take into a winter environment? A relatively small kit that kind of got out of hand right here with a lot of different things. I decided to make this more of a discussion about possible items as opposed to a comprehensive kit for a winter or cold weather environment. So that's what we're going to do today. Got a lot of good information, a lot of good kit items, so let's dive in. Stand by. All right, gang, we're going to do this video in two parts today. We're going to talk about first the everyday carry items that go in our pockets, our base kit, those things in our pockets are on us at all times. I would argue in the winter, cold weather, we're going to have additional clothing on, which means extra pockets and places to store our gear. So this kit can get as large or as small as we want, especially with those smaller items from our last video. We can sprinkle those in to our clothing and increase our survival kit. We can also maintain just a basic kit like these items you see before you that I typically carry and typically recommend. And then we're going to talk about our ditch pouch here. This is just a small utility pouch that has the remainder of our kit in it. And hopefully with all of these items, we can actually affect survival in a cold weather environment for a short duration. All right, so let's talk about what's going to be the core of our everyday carry kit in a survival situation. This is what I recommend. This is what I use and what I carry typically, just through trial and error. A lot of these things can be changed out for other tools. In a winter environment, we could use a hatchet. In a hot weather environment, we could use a parang or a machete, but a lot of these concepts are going to remain the same because they cut across a lot of different survival scenarios. And so that first item is going to be some sort of large cutting tool. We want to think gross motor skills with a tool like this. Reason being is that we're going to be cold and we're going to lose the dexterity in our fingers, or potentially lose that dexterity. So we're not going to be doing fine carving. We're not going to be notching. We're just going to be processing wood down to make shelter and to make fire. That's what we're going to be doing with this tool right here. This is the Becker BK2. It is a large knife, so it's got mass behind it so we can chop, take down material. We can split wood easily with this. We can bust into material. We can even dig with this. With this knife, I'm not worried about digging in the snow or potentially digging through ice, either to get into water or to dig ice and make footholds to climb out of some sort of obstacle, whatever it is. With this knife, we can do that. This knife is high carbon steel, so we could even use this with a hard rock and drive sparks off the spine. The spine is ground down to a 90 degrees, so we can use it with a ferro rod very easily to get a fire going as well. A large knife like this is going to be great to keep on our belt, take with us, and use as an all-around tool. And then next, what I prefer is some sort of multi-tool. Again, that multi-tool, we can use this to process different materials that we find. It's got a saw on it. It's got extra blades, even a file to sharpen our big knife. It can handle a lot of different things for us, especially in a winter survival scenario. It gives us that extra hand so we can actually get into smaller areas. If we lose the dexterity in our fingers, we can still manipulate objects with those pliers, which is why having an extra pair of hands in the form of a mini tool with the pliers is incredibly important. And then besides those cutting tools, we just have a small utility knife. Nice camo here with the white, so it'll help to blend into the environment a little bit. We can still fight it if we drop it because the blade will reflect the sun's rays and hopefully we can see it. We can add a colored lanyard to that knife if we want to. The reason we add lanyards to blades or to tools is so we can grab them just a little bit easier, pull them out of our pocket without hurting ourselves, and then grip up on the knife and actually go to work. That lanyard is there as just an extra handhold as well as a visual aid in case we drop this. With the white, not going to help so much, but we can put colored cord on here to help us find it if we drop it in the snow. Next is paracord. Carry a lot of paracord. This is white paracord, so if we're in a military environment and we don't want to be seen but we need to construct a shelter, we can use this because it'll blend into the snow just a little bit better. We can use any paracord that we want. You'll notice that darker paracord contrasts with the environment. Here you can see the cheap winter camo poncho that I picked up just for this video for you guys, but dark color is going to contrast with that snow. So if we're in a permissive environment, we want to use dark colored or bright colored paracord and gear so that we can find it if we drop it, but other people can see it and notice it as well. If it's a non-permissive environment, we can use just regular white paracord. This paracord actually has more than 7 strands in it. Got another small hank here. It's got a ton of inner strands, so the extra inner strands can be used for additional cordage, just another way to increase our cordage in a survival situation, getting paracord that has extra strands in it. And then lastly, we need a fire starter of some sort. The best fire starter, bar none, is going to be just that nice lighter. That lighter, instant flame. We can start a fire with this, hold this down, and use the fuel to get that fire going. We also have the ability with the tape wrapped around this lighter to act as a flame extender. The chapstick is secured by lanyard to that lighter, making it a larger pocket item. So if one falls out, hopefully the other one gets caught in the pocket, or if we drop them, we can find them together as opposed to searching all over the place and all over camp to find our chapstick or our fire starter. So that tape is a flame extender with our lighter. We've got more tape around the chapstick, and then even underneath the chapstick, inside, there's a ball of cotton that we can use combined with the chapstick that is 50% petroleum jelly or petrolatum, a hydrocarbon. Cotton balls and Vaseline makes a great fire starter. That's another way we have emergency tinder with us. Combined with that tape, this gives us an awesome fire starting tool. It's almost like the Arctic necklace. If you've ever seen one of those, you wear your lighter, your chapstick, and maybe some other items on a necklace close to your body. One, to keep them warm, but then also so you don't lose them or drop them in the snow. So this is kind of a take on that. I came up with this when I was in Ranger school. I was a winter ranger, and I was tired of losing these small items, so I just taped them together, tied them together so I wouldn't lose them and keep them in my pocket, and it came in handy. All right, so that is the core of our kit. Everything we need, a lot of cutting tools, but if we go tool heavy, we can craft everything else we may need from materials off the landscape, shelter, and fire, something to protect ourselves from the elements, as well as stay warm and reheat ourselves and potentially even hydrate through eating snow, but still having that fire to keep warm so we don't drop our body temperature too low while eating snow. I wouldn't recommend eating snow unless it was the last option available. We can still do it, especially if we're working hard. A good way to help prevent sweating, but it's also dangerous because it could drop our core body temperature and place us in real harm, especially in a winter environment where hypothermia is going to be the #1 killer. So here's the kit. All right, so now let's look at this ditch kit. Some of these items are going to change based on environment. Our core kit may not. It may just change the tools, but the basic concepts are there. However, with this kit, the items inside will definitely change given a few of these items and their unique purpose. So let's dive in. All right, that first item is just a whistle. In a winter environment, all the trees, or most of them, if they're deciduous, are going to lose their leaves, and that snow is not going to dampen sound over distance, and so this whistle will actually carry through the woods a lot further in cold weather as opposed to hot weather where we have leaves and vegetation blocking this auditory signal. So a whistle is going to be one of our primary signals. All right, next we have this tin, and inside this tin is just a small commando saw or chainsaw. I would argue this is going to be one of the bigger items to carry because collecting firewood warms you up 3 times, as they say. 1, gathering that wood. 2, bringing that wood back to camp. And then 3, lighting that wood and sitting next to the fire to get warm. So with this, we can process a lot of material combined with that large knife we have, processing it down, getting to that dry material inside, and then starting a fire using that material if the exterior is compromised or somewhat marginal. And then even with our saw and then some cordage and maybe a couple of toggles, we can extend the range of this saw, placing us in a safer position away from a tree that we're trying to fell for shelter craft. So a saw like this is going to be great, especially when we have to collect a lot of material in order to stay warm and protect ourselves. Next, this is a twofer right here. That first item is going to be the plastic bag itself. We don't really need a container necessarily to boil water to make it safe to drink if we have a lot of snow around us. Here we have just the Arctic canteen cup the military uses. Wide mouth, it fits on the bottom of that Arctic canteen. But we can use a bag like this to craft what's called an Arctic bag, we just wrap it in tape. We don't really have to actually wrap it in tape at all, but we want to add cordage to this bag. We add the cordage up top here to the tabs, and we wear this around our neck, underneath our clothing, on top of maybe the first or second layer. And what we do with this bag is fill it with snow, and then our body heat actually melt that snow. We continue adding snow to this bag until we get a good collection of melted snow down at the bottom in the form of water, and then we can simply drink that water, staying close to the fire to stay warm and rehydrate ourselves. So that plastic bag is going to be one of our primary, if not our primary, container for water and hydrating. All right, that second item that was inside the plastic bag, this item right here is just a basic packet of Jell-O mix, red color. The reason we carry this is because this color will contrast with the snow. If we're creating a ground-to-air signal using natural materials like pine boughs or conifer boughs, we're going to use those to form the ground-to-air signal to alert search and rescue aircraft. But if we have something like this, we can actually take the powder from the Jell-O mix, because it's red, sprinkle it around the outline of our signal, enhancing that signal, contrasting this bright red color with the white snow on the ground and the green vegetation we use to make that signal, to help that signal stand out even more. This is just an improvised trick that we can do. And of course, if the signal fails and the aircraft doesn't recognize our signal or flies by, we have about 4.5 cups of frozen cherry Jell-O to eat back at camp after we clean up our survival signal. Next, just a white bandana. The reason we have a white bandana or a white cloth is because it helps add camouflage if we have to wear it. We can wear this around our face to protect our face from cold weather injuries. The reason we don't wear camouflage face paint in winter is because if we get some sort of cold weather injury to our hands or to our face, wearing face paint will disguise those and we won't be able to see them. We want to be able to see cold weather injuries so we can prevent them or stop them or treat them before they get any worse. And so having a cloth like this to put around our face is going to be great. Also in here, we just have a safety pin. That safety pin we can use for fish hooks. Showed that in the last video. We can actually get 2 fish hooks with our safety pins right there. And so we can use those to fish after breaking through the ice with that large knife or with a stick or a rock, and then attempt to go after some game. So just another way to improvise, and something else that's very small and easy for us to use to add to our kit. All right, one more thing with this bandana before I forget is that we can use a piece of cloth like this, or even if we carry some sort of scarf like a sniper veil around our necks at all times. Besides keeping warm, we can use these cloths as a snow melt. What we do is take this cloth, open it up, pack it with snow, and then suspend this close to our fire. That fire will melt that snow inside the bandana or inside our sniper veil, and the water from that melted snow will drip down. We can place that or catch that water in our plastic bag or in some sort of container like that Arctic snow cup, and then get water that way that is ready to drink as long as it's not yellow snow. Next item is just a simple Mylar blanket. This Mylar blanket, orange on one side, and it's actually green on the other side, which means that we can use this for shelter craft, but we can also use that orange side as a visual signal. We lay this out in the snow, stake it out with cordage as best as possible, combined with other vegetation from around the area, and even that Jell-O packet to create a signal or a ground-to-air signal that search and rescue aircraft can see. We can also use this as a reflector to help contain heat. And besides just this standalone Mylar blanket for shelter, we can also use something else as part of our kit to make a very quick shelter, and that is just a simple candle. What we do is we take this, we wrap the blanket around ourselves, find a dry spot on the ground, or use some wood to create just a bench, anything dry that we can sit on. But we take this blanket, wrap it around ourselves, take this candle, plant it right in between our legs, and then take our lighter and light this candle, that candle in between our legs with this blanket firmly wrapped around us with only a gap right around our neck will actually help give us a lot of warmth and will warm the inside of that makeshift emergency shelter with just a blanket and the candle, increasing the heat inside and warming us up very, very quickly. So it's a good technique to know, which is why a candle is another item in this kit. So speaking of lighting fires, we have additional fire starting tools. In hot weather, I'm confident in having just 1 or 2 fire starters, but in cold weather and winter, we need multiple fire starters in order for us to get a fire going, because that's what's going to save our lives in extreme cold weather. So that first one is just a simple ferro rod. Again, we can take our survival knife, that BK2, and strike sparks with the back or the spine of our blade and that ferro rod to ignite tinder to get a fire going. Then we also have survival matches or stormproof matches. These matches come in a waterproof container. It's got a striker on the bottom, a spare striker inside. But each and every one of these matches, has been coated in paraffin wax. You can see that some of the matches are clear while others kind of have a red color to them because different wax was used as we replace these matches from our original kit. But matches are going to be one of the best ways to start a fire. We need to do it correctly so we don't break the match, but matches can still be reliable in a winter environment to get a fire going. Next, just a small flashlight. This is just a Maglite LED, no incandescent bulb or anything. It's got a lanyard on it as well, so we can grab it very easily. It's black, so we can notice it if we drop it in the snow. Plus, it has additional tape on the handle. So we get a better grip with this. Remember, gross motor skills. With the tips of our fingers, we may not be able to manipulate or handle objects very well. So having tape around smaller objects like this, even tape around our ferro rod and around our lighter, is going to give us a better purchase on these items. Plus, we can use that tape for improvisation. One of the best ways to use tape for improvisation is to create something called snow goggles. In a winter environment, that sunlight is going to glare or reflect off the snow that we're walking around in. And over time, if we stare at that snow and that sunlight too long, we're going to burn our retinas. So we create something like this, snow goggles, where we have a little cutout here for our nose and then 2 slits for our eyes to close the aperture of our eye while still maintaining good visibility through these small slits to decrease the amount of light that gets into our eyes by making that aperture smaller in the form of snow goggles like this, so we can protect our eyes and continue to survive. So it's a good technique to know, just another improvisation technique. Besides a flame extender, we can make certain things out of tape that will help us big time. Another item that comes in a lot of military first aid kits or vehicle first aid kits are small burn dressings. These burn dressings are nothing more than cotton gauze and Vaseline, meaning that it's another fire starter for us. Not only can this treat a burn by wrapping it around a burn, but we can use this as a fire starter. So I've got an open one right here. This is what it looks like. We can take just a piece of this cloth and actually light it on fire very easily with a lighter. And use that to get a fire going. Plus, we can use this for improvisational bandages as well. Take a small strip of this and put it around a small cut or laceration. One of the more common injuries or types of first aid treatments that we're going to do in a winter environment, especially if we're dehydrated and we're doing a lot of work, is dry skin and cracked skin. If we're using our hands a lot around where our fingers bend, we're going to have a lot of cracked or dry skin. And so we want to protect those because they become painful over time, and we're going to get them on both hands. We can take small strips of this, combine with that tape, and make improvisational band-aids to help protect those small cuts on our fingers and on our hands so we can continue to work. So something small that takes up very little space, that gives us a lot of multifunctional options. And then lastly, one thing we can take advantage of is snares. Snare wire. Having this readily available means that we don't have to make a lot of deadfall traps, or we can prioritize this over other traps to go after small game. There's going to be a lot of small game running around certain areas. Snowshoe hares, rabbits, different smaller animals that we could potentially snare with just basic snares made from picture hanging wire like this, combined with that multi-tool so we can actually cut this wire and fashion it down. If we didn't have those wire cutters, we would have to find another way to cut this wire, but we can use this to make snares to go after game. Ultimately, the best way to get warm is through metabolic process or consuming food and liquids to heat our body from the inside. Plus, in a winter environment, we're going to be losing a lot of calories through expenditure just trying to stay warm. So having a way or a ready way to go after small game to feed ourselves and replenish all those calories and stay warm and not succumb to exhaustion or fatigue is going to be really, really important. And of course, we should always have a snack in our pocket anyway, some sort of high-calorie energy bar or peanut butter, something that we can eat that has a lot of fat and protein in it so we can replenish those calories and help build up a little bit of those fat stores that we're going to lose in cold weather just through walking around and trying to stay warm. All right, guys, that does it for this video. A down and dirty video today on pocket carry as well as kind of a small winter survival, everyday carry type of kit, things that we can incorporate into our own kit or something that we can just carry based off simple priorities, simple needs for winter or cold weather environments. Really hope you liked this video. If you did like this video, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, leave me a comment in the comment section. I always appreciate your feedback. I want to thank you guys for everything you do for me, for this channel, for your likes, your views, your subscriptions, your comments, your feedback, and your shares. And I will be back with another video as soon as I can, guys. Thanks.